Tell us about the experience meeting your boy, Carlos Beltran.
Francisco comes out the clubhouse, whatever, like, you know, where they all eat and chill and stuff. He's like, yo, guys, yo, pull up. Yo, I walk over there. Beltran comes out, bro. It was like a light around this dude. I was like, yo, that's my favorite player on the planet. And I like kept my cool. I was just chilling. And we all hanging out back there. Everybody's cracking jokes. It's like Iglesias and Alvarez. And finally, I was like, yo, Carlos, I just have to tell you, bro. Yo, you my favorite player of all time. Yo, I was like, I didn't want to say anything to you, man, like, because you're a legend, bro. You're legendary. He's like, oh, yo, love you, bro. Gave me this big hug and whatever. And then it was crazy, yo. We like hanging out back there. We chilling for mad long. He's like, yo, bro, if you in PR, like, hit me up. Blah, blah, blah. And I was texting him the other day. I was like, yo, I sent that first text. I was like, can't believe I'm texting Carlos Beltran.
That's amazing.
Hey, I'm Vito Calisi. That's Jonathan Barron. Thank you again for meeting us at the Apple. And look, we are meeting after the Mets split a series with the Nationals. Definitely the series could have went a different way, but still take 2 out of 4 in D.C. The Mets are still looking good. We're almost at the end of this Diaz suspension. John, how are you feeling over there in New Jersey on this wonderful July 4th with a basketball hoop behind you?
First of all, I am not in New Jersey. I don't know where. Why did you say that?
Oh, sorry. I mixed up Jersey and Long Island.
You know, they have a lot of similarities, I will say, Jersey and Long Island. Great bagels, great beaches, great pizza. I've habitated in both.
You're from New Jersey. Don't make it like it's crazy that I said you're in New Jersey.
I know, but I haven't lived in New Jersey since, you know, the end of 2022 pretty much. But anyway, happy 4th of July to you. By the time our listeners will be enjoying this podcast, it'll be the 5th of July. So we hope that everyone had a great 4th of July. Good weather, a little Mets baseball in the morning. Really weird. I mean, I know that we here on the East Coast had that 10 a.m. Mets-Phillies game when the team was in London a few weekends ago. But the players didn't deal with that. For the players, it was what, like 2 o'clock or something like that, maybe even later local time in London. So this was really a weird day, and especially challenging for the players to have to wake up after a couple extra innings games and then the Wednesday night ball game that the Mets let slip away, to wake up and not just get to the park early, but start early at 11 a.m. So really a challenge. Would be curious to see what a couple of the guys would say about what it was like having to play at 11 a.m. This is something the Nationals have been doing since 2012 is when they started playing the July 4th game at 11 a.m. But like you said, an interesting split, really close games throughout. The first 2 decided in extra innings. The third game, a game that, you know, both teams made pushes in. The Mets take the 5-0 lead, and the Nationals respond with 7 unanswered of their own. And then, of course, Thursday, a classic pitchers duel. Jose Quintana, Jake Irvin going toe-to-toe, and it was one swing that decided that game. So some positives for the Mets to take away. Of course, they kind of let one get away on Wednesday, which, you know, really stinks, especially after the result on Thursday. But hey, Vito, that's why, as we continue to say, that's why baseball is such an interesting and fun sport, because at 7 p.m. on Friday night, we're going to forget all about it, and we're going to do it all again in Pittsburgh against Paul Skenes.
I think it's at 6:30 or 6:40 because I know it's at 6:40 actually, not at 7. So if you turn on that game at 7, you might be like 2 innings in. I not only do I look, I know it's tougher on the players, but I got to admit I did love the 11 a.m. start time. I went to the gym, ran home. It's 1:30 right now, and John and I are recording an episode of the podcast. But yeah, it was a really interesting series, and like it's funny because, you know, a lot of fans might be feeling down because you easily could have. They look at it like you easily could have taken 3 out of 4 or even 4 out of 4. But if you look at the flip side, with the bullpen problems, this team was also in danger of losing more than just the 2 games. So it's just 2 sides of the same coin. The Mets head to Pittsburgh after this. And you might have seen some tweets saying that the Mets have the easiest schedule in the National League, some stats like that for the remainder of the season. But something you have to remember is that, like, it's not as easy. It's not as simple as wins and losses make of a different team make a game harder or easier. For example, the Pirates might be a sub 500 team right now, but who are they going up against? It's Paul Skenes on Friday night. There's a more tale to every story, so I don't think you should take any you shouldn't take any deep meaning into that factor of the easiest schedule for the rest of the season. Would you agree, John?
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't really put much into that. We saw what happened in September of 2022 when everyone talked about the Mets' easy schedule. I mean, the Pirates and Nationals right now are both, sticking around in this National League wild card hunt. The Nationals are a team that before the season, not many expected much from, but the Nationals have really, really had a surprising season. They're on track to way surpass the number that Vegas had posted for their wins total. Vito had someone pretty smart, handsome, and intelligent tell him the Nationals were going to be a little bit of a surprise team this year, whoever that might have been. The Nationals really, really impressed with their starting pitching, especially Jake Irvin on Thursday threw an absolute gem, 8 innings of one-run ball, and then Mackenzie Gore and DJ Hers on Monday and Tuesday. The Mets offense really started to get going on Monday once Mackenzie Gore was lifted from the game, and DJ Hers has already through 6 career starts had double-digit strikeouts twice. So 2 impressive lefties there. A Nationals team that called up James Wood to make his MLB debut on Monday, and Wood had a great series as well. 4 hits, 4 walks, struck out only 1 time. He's going to be a pain in the rear for a really long time for Mets fans and just the entire National League East. I mean that Juan Soto trade, the first one, it's kind of crazy. One of the best players in baseball,
Yeah.
one of the best players the last like 50 years, has been traded not once but twice before turning 26 years old. But that trade has already really netted the Nationals a lot of major league talent between CJ Abrams, Mackenzie Gore, and now James Wood up in the big leagues. So, the Mets need to take care of business with the teams that are put ahead of them. I hate when people say, "Oh, well, they're playing no one, they're beating no one." Well, that's not how it works, because if you don't beat the good teams, you're not a good team. There's a finite amount of games in a baseball season, and someone's got to win, someone's got to lose. So, it's a big 4 games coming up in Pittsburgh. A little bit weird. You don't usually see the Monday wraparound game. We'll have that, and then the Mets come right back home for 3 against the Nats, and then 3 against the Rockies to close out this first half. That's been pretty much an entire season in one first half. So hey, like I said, it's nice to not have any days off and elemental loss. Like you just pick yourself right back up and get right back to it. And the Mets will do that again on Friday, not at 7:00, at 6:40, which I'm all about the 6:40 start, by the way. I love it.
Yeah. And not to point out an edge that the Pirates might have in this series, John, but I was reading about Anthrocon, and do you know about the edge the Pirates have with Anthrocon?
So when you had asked me before we got going, do you know what Anthrocon is? I absolutely did not. I didn't realize that they had a big festival in Pittsburgh coming up this weekend. So I know that there's a thing called Pirate Fest. I believe that's down in Tampa Bay. It would make sense for that to be in Pittsburgh, but it's not. So why don't you explain to all the viewers and
Well,
listeners
no, that
what
also
Anthrocon is?
does make sense in Tampa though, because they have the Buccaneers there. So I mean, like you can't forget about a pirate themed franchise in a different part of the country. But Anthrocon is one of the largest furry conventions in the world, and this is when a bunch of people head to Pittsburgh to get their fursonas and meet up with each other. And there's numbers behind this because Andrew McCutchen performs surprisingly well when a Pirates homestand lines up with Anthrocon in Pittsburgh. In 73 plate appearances at PNC Park when the convention is in town, Andrew McCutchen has 3 home runs and he's slashing 419, 479, and 742. And John, that means that we are headed for a collision course with our fursona, Grimace, and Anthrocon.
Can you explain what a furry is? Like, what actually is a furry?
A furry is somebody who there's somebody who's super into like portraying animals that like look kind of human like anthropomorphic is an animal that has human features. So it's like when you see like an animal, like a cartoon animal that stands and walks or talks. So these furries are people who are super into that, and then they all meet up at this convention and they get to meet each other in their fursonas. But Andrew McCutchen tweets about it every time that the team is home when the convention is in town, because he found out he's like especially hot during this time. I'm not saying that Andrew McCutchen is a furry with a fursona, but he is aware of what's going on. So I'm just saying, I'm not saying the Pirates have an edge. I'm just trying to let the Mets know that there's something else at foot. So whatever we could do to like curb that, whatever we could do to like keep that at bay, I don't know, maybe bring out even more grimaces. Like, I don't know what we can do here.
Well, I'm sure there will be some grimaces on the ground in Pittsburgh. Shout out to the young man, by the way, who was
Yeah,
dressed
dude.
in a brand new Grimace costume. I hadn't seen this one before. It looked like a certain, I don't even know what the material is, but when JD
Inflatable.
hit the inflatable Grimace, when JD hit the home run in extra innings on Monday, the way that Grimace was moving, that was a lot of fun. So shout out to them and shout out to John DeMarsco and the SNY truck finding that shot and putting it up and giving us all us Mets fans watching at home a nice little splash of grimace during this 4-game series. One thing I want to call out during this 4-game series, something that the Mets had go incredibly well for them, was the starting pitching. A 2.42 ERA between the 4 starting pitchers the Mets threw out there: David Peterson, Sean Manaea, Christian Scott, and Jose Quintana. And if you break it down even further, and these guys will all be pitching in Pittsburgh, David Peterson, his last 3 starts, a 2.70 ERA, just 2 homers allowed. Sean Manaea, his last 4 starts, a 1.99 ERA, just 1 home run allowed. Jose Quintana, his last 4 starts now, a microscopic 1.16 ERA and just 2 home runs allowed. And for Quintana, he's now allowed 3 runs or fewer in 9 consecutive starts. So every time he's taken the ball, he's given his team a chance to win. And prior to Thursday, the Mets had scored at least 5 runs, Vito, in 9 straight games. That is tied for the second longest streak in the history of the Mets. So, yes, in a long season in baseball, you're going to have your days where the bats just aren't there. That day was Thursday, but we can't credit the Mets bats enough for how well they'd been performing. And how about Brandon Nimmo, who we all know what happened in the hotel room? He faints, he cuts his head. Glad that Brandon's okay. Really scary situation. On Tuesday, he comes off the bench in a pinch when Harrison Bader leaves the game with a neck injury, ties the game up late, and then comes up with a huge insurance hit for the Mets that really helped the floodgates open there in the 10th inning. And Brandon Nimmo has been clutch all season. And in fact, Vito, you can quantify this if you use wins probability added. And for all those who are unfamiliar with the statistic, it is the way we measure a player's clutch. Now, I know people love to throw the term clutch around. He's got clutch. He's not clutch. To me, I don't fully believe in the skill set of being clutch, but this statistic is measured by the following. If your team has a, let's say, 20% win probability at the time of you making a play, either offensively or defensively, and that goes up to 70%, you added 50% to your team's probability of winning a game, 0.5. And the statistic is added throughout the season. The same works conversely. If your team has a 70% chance of winning a game and you make a play and it drops to 0.2, 20%, you go down in WPA. Okay, you guys got that? Brandon Nimmo, entering Thursday, has a 3.3 wins probability added, tying him with a fellow by the name of Juan Soto for the best in all of baseball. So, Brandon Nimmo on pace for 100 RBIs, having a monster season. He's been so good for this Mets team, and there has not been a hitter in baseball more clutch than Brandon Nimmo.
And Brandon Nimmo, being a homegrown Met, being a guy who's been with this organization for so long, he needed to have a weird Mets injury.
I mean, he's had his fair share. If you remember the undercooked chicken from earlier in his career,
I do remember the undercooked chicken. That was it.
Yep.
That was it. Was that his first or second year?
I remember he also had a lung thing. He had like a collapsed lung, which was also a scary situation.
Yeah, but that's terrible. That's a terrifying thing. Like a slip and look. You got slip and fall in a hotel room. You got Yoenis Cespedes in the bore. You got Francisco Lindor slamming his finger in a hotel room door. You have an Uber ride in 2006 or a taxi cab ride in 2006 that may or may not have impacted a season. So many things in this team and just weird injuries that we see. So luckily, Brandon's was a very short, just a one-day injury that we hope will be just a Harry Potter memory of yesteryear. But yeah, look, Mets are going to Pittsburgh. Every game is pretty important from this time on when you have an NL wildcard race as tight as this is right now. Pittsburgh is a beautiful place to go. It's close enough where I'm sure there will be a ton of Mets fans out there this weekend. And you got some really exciting matchups this weekend. Like John said, we're gonna have Luis Severino going up against Paul Skenes this weekend, who's the front runner for Rookie of the Year at this point. And look, it's going to be cool to see Paul Skenes in action with somebody that John and I were talking about on Future of Flushing last year a ton. Somebody that Mets minor leaguer Paul Gervais told us about in our first interview with him when we asked him about the competition in the Sally versus the competition in the SEC.
That's right. Mets prospect Paul Gervais, an LSU guy. Paul Skenes, an LSU guy as well. The Mets will catch a break. They're not going to see Jared Jones, who really carved up the Mets lineup back in April when the Mets and Pirates met for the first time. He was placed on the injured list earlier on Thursday. So not sure who the Pirates will replace Jones with. The Mets will also see Mitch Keller in Pittsburgh. But the Mets had their starting rotation lined up the way they want to. I mentioned the three guys who have just been shoving for the Mets recently. And hey, Christian Scott, he was dominant through the first 4 innings on Wednesday night as well. And even the 5th inning, he got himself in some trouble, got out of it with that sword against CJ Abrams. Look, he made one bad pitch. It came at a bad time, especially untimely with 2 guys on for him to serve up the home run to Luis Garcia. But for Scott, he was kind of in uncharted territory there because if you look at his game logs from his recent minor league stint, he had not gotten up to 100 pitches. The Mets had him on a pitch count, trying to, keep his innings from totally blowing away. You don't want him getting into 200 innings. He's never really done anything close to that in his professional career. So he battled, and I loved what he said after the game. He was talked about, he was asked about the at-bat against Luis Garcia. And he said, hey, I'm glad Mendy trusted in me to try to get through that 6th inning there. I didn't get the job done. I hope that he trusts me again, and next time I will. And it's a learning moment for a really, really talented young pitcher who, like I said, he was limiting any hard damage through the first 4 innings in that game. He was on absolute cruise control. So I liked what I saw from Christian Scott on Wednesday night in DC, and I look forward to seeing his next start slated to go on Monday in Pittsburgh. But, another thing this Mets rotation has done is limit the long ball. The Mets have only allowed 80 home runs this year. That's tied for the 4th fewest in the majors. You mentioned the Mets almost through the Edwin Diaz suspension, only a couple more games, and then their roster will be whole again, back to 26 guys. And also, let's not forget, one game left. And let's not forget also the lineup on Thursday. JD Martinez has the sore ankle. Harrison Bader has what's plagued him after running into the fence. Starling Marte not in the lineup, on the injured list right now. So, the Mets are a little bit banged up, but they're still getting by. They're getting contributions from throughout the lineup still. Tyrone Taylor has been hot, especially in the power department. 3 homers in his last 7 games. Marc Vientos, I mean, if you guys have been listening to this show or Future of Flushing, you know that Vito and I are huge fans of Marc Vientos. He missed all of April, pretty much entirely April. He came up for a little bit. He's still on pace to hit 20 home runs. There's only one guy in the National League with a better at-bat per home run rate than Marc Vientos, and his name is Shohei Ohtani. That's the kind of company when it comes to power and home run hitting that Marc Vientos has been in. So what a job by Marc Vientos to continue to slug like that. So yeah, I think that kind of puts a wrap on the 4 games that we just played and looking ahead to the 4 in Pittsburgh. Go ahead, Vito.
Well, one more thing. I do want to mention Jose Butto made his first appearance in relief.
Yes.
Looked outstanding, and that's going to be such an important part. He's going to be such an important piece of this bullpen going forward. I mean, even after Edwin's back, even after Sean Reed-Foley's back and the rotation is a little more solidified, even with Senga on the – and also, wait, we didn't even get to mention Kodai Senga yet, who threw in Brooklyn the other day and looked great in his minor league debut, which is really funny to see a guy have their minor league debut well after their major league debut. But yeah, it's that Jose Butto in the bullpen is going to be a very valuable piece that the Mets will have. And, Adrian Hauser, one bad pitch today. That was the first home run he had given up in relief since he made that transition to the bullpen. So like John said, a lot of injuries have plagued this team, Sean Reed-Foley being another one of them over the last week, but the troops are on their way back. You'll see JD Martinez in the lineup. You'll see Harrison Bader in the lineup. Starling Marte is a guy who's a huge difference maker, but just really wanted to give a shout out to Jose Butto because he did look great in relief on Tuesday night.
No, that's a great point. I mean, he was a key in helping the Mets win that game, and really curious and interested to see the way that the Mets deploy Jose Butto. He throws 2 scoreless innings, gives the Mets bats a chance to hit and eventually win that game. Daniel Nunez continues to just thrive for the Mets in late game situations. He's become instantly a high leverage guy, one of Carlos Mendoza's most trusted bullpen arms. So you're right. I mean, those 2 guys are going to play key roles for the Mets moving forward. Daniel Nunez, such a great story. And Jose Butto, just coming up and embracing the opportunity and the challenge of pitching out of the bullpen. We saw it last year a couple times. In fact, I think he made his Mets relief debut against the Pirates last year in August, if my memory serves correct. And he was throwing hard. He was touching 97 a couple nights ago on Tuesday night. He was touching 95, slider, cutter, changeup, all looking great. So he was really, really fantastic for a Mets bullpen that we know has been taxed, especially since the suspension to Edwin Diaz. But hopefully things starting to normalize a little bit for the Mets as they get ready to welcome Edwin Diaz back into the fold in Pittsburgh this weekend. And Vito, we have big plans to watch Friday night's game together. Are we still on for that, or have things changed?
I'm totally down to watch Friday night, figure out a place to go watch the game together. John and I realized recently we've never watched a game. We've never sat down and watched a game together, even at Citi Field. We're just both, John's always in the booth. I'm always running around doing stuff. So we never actually get to watch games together. So that'll be exciting. And just a little more insight into that Kodai Senga rehab appearance. 2 2/3 scoreless innings, hitless innings, and he hit 97, also got 6 strikeouts. So Kodai Senga on the mend, and it's going to be really exciting to see when he gets back into that Mets rotation.
It is. Carlos Mendoza actually told reporters before Thursday's game that the plan is to have Kodai make his next start for AAA Syracuse, get him up to around 50, maybe 60 pitches. Of course, with the All-Star break coming up, the minor leagues also have All-Star breaks. They play the Futures game. So things will be a little bit more challenging. Maybe not challenging. Maybe that's not the word, but a little bit more difficult to keep him on his regular turn. So probably a sim game there. The Mets might have Kodai Senga throw to keep him on that every 5-6 day workflow as he gets closer and closer. And, he's obviously a very welcome addition to a Mets rotation that, as I mentioned not too long ago, has really been thriving. And this will just continue to add to the Mets' wealth in the starting pitching category. We talked about that with Carlos Mendoza a few weeks ago, just how deep this rotation goes. It goes beyond the major leagues. It goes down to AAA as well when you have guys like Joey Lucchesi, who's been really good for the Syracuse Mets, and Mike Vasil, who's now thrown 3 straight quality starts, and Dom Hamill, who, if you listen to Future of Flushing, has some of the best stuff in the entire organization. So, the Mets, like I mentioned, they have their starting rotation laid out very nicely for this 4-game series against the Pirates. And the starting pitchers have also given the Mets a little bit of depth here, which you love to see. Luis Severino on Sunday pitched into where he got through 7. David Peterson pitched into the 7th. Jose Quintana completed 7 innings. Sean Manaea completed 7 innings. So the Mets starting pitchers have really, really started to give the Mets what they need, especially during this tough time without Edwin Diaz. So, hey, glass half full podcast. You split, you move on. We go to Pittsburgh. Baseball every day. No days off until the All-Star break. The lineup, the bats, they'll be cooking once again in Pittsburgh. The Mets have won 12 of the last 15, by the way, against the Pirates. So it's a team the Mets have had a lot of success with in recent years. And they look to continue that trend this weekend.
And the Mets have not lost 3 straight since before the team meeting. So they look to keep that streak alive. Only 1 series loss since that team meeting, being the Astros. So the Mets are still hot. Big series coming up. I'm excited for it. Luis Severino on the mound, who is the OMG sign master. If you've noticed, John, you do not see the OMG sign without Luis Severino protecting it.
He is. I mean, Sevy has been such a great addition in so many ways. We know how good he's been on the mound, but also just him embracing the OMG. And he just looks to be having such a great time as a New York Met. So he's really been an incredible addition by David Stearns and company. One more thing, you have one thing I want to say,
and I do want to mention that OMG sign is made by JMac Customs. He also dropped one off in Brooklyn to the Cyclones that he made specifically for them for Kodai Senga's start that they've been using, and we may have something in the works with JMac for us as well. So keep an eye out for that. But JMac Customs did a really cool job with that sign, and I think this team has needed a home run trophy for a long time, so it's really cool to have that this year.
Absolutely. I mean, team home run celebrations are so much fun. I remember the Tigers had a Detroit Red Wings themed celebration. They had a little hockey net in the dugout, a couple of hockey sticks. So, the Mets have found their thing. They've latched on, and it's been working. And, they've been homering a lot. Didn't homer on Thursday, but before that, they had gone many consecutive games. I believe it was 16 straight with a home run. So, I know we're about to toss to our interview with Anthony Ramos, diehard Mets fan, who was one of the many stars in the upcoming movie Twisters. that you guys are definitely going to want to check out. But before we do toss to that, I just want to say once again, happy 4th of July. And thank you to all our men and women out there who are defending our freedom each and every day. Freedom is certainly not free. So on this 4th of July, or this July 4th holiday weekend, just want to give a shout out to everyone out there who continues to fight for our freedom. Definitely don't want to take it for granted ever. Something that we should all be thinking of as we enjoy our barbecues and our hot dogs and our red, white, and blue popsicles this weekend.
And just on another note, we'd like to mention Marc Levine, beloved team photographer of the Mets, passed away this weekend. Marc, if you've seen pictures, if you've seen memorable Mets photos, Marc Levine likely took those photos. Going from the Nohan picture of Johan Santana right after holding up his arm after throwing that no-hitter, that was Marc's picture. I'm sure you've seen snaps of him taking the Endy Chavez catch. Just really great guy who's been with this team for so long. His first day was the famous Keith Hernandez, Darryl Strawberry fight at spring training. And he showed me pictures he took of the actual fight itself on his first day. But just a really beloved member of the Mets family who passed away. We found out this morning. Everybody's just super crushed about it. And we just definitely wanted to mention to all the fans out there that it's a really hard loss for the Mets organization.
Yeah. Devastating news. Marc was so kind to each and every person that he had encountered. I remember starting with the Mets and meeting Marc for the first time, and just remembering how nice and welcoming he was. Marc was a staple of this organization, has been for 3+ decades. He had done a lot of great work when it comes to photography, but also telling the stories behind a lot of those many famous photographs. Last season, when the Mets celebrated, or a couple seasons ago, when the Mets celebrated the anniversary of Johan Santana's no-hitter, Marc was part of a really, really neat video that gave different perspectives of that night. Howie Rose was one of the many people also interviewed for that. But Marc gave his vantage point, or the story through his lens. And it was, just an incredible look back. And I know he went on with Jay Horowitz recently on the Amazing Conversations podcast, and they had a brilliant conversation about all the brilliant work that Marc had done throughout his 3+ decades. So, Vito, you said it best. We're all crushed internally. Our thoughts and our prayers are with Marc's family and his loved ones. And yeah, everyone out there, just, please say a prayer for Marc and his family. It's a devastating, devastating loss for everyone who knew him. He truly was beloved by his coworkers and his friends. And may he rest in peace.
Yeah, if you work for the Mets, you likely have a picture of yourself taken by Marc Levine. I know I have a picture of me, my mom, and my wife taken on the field by him. But just wanted to mention Marc and give our respects and pay tribute to him before we through to our interview with Anthony Ramos. So here it is. This is an interview we did with Anthony Ramos right before the 12-hour Astros game that was Sunday. Anthony, you got to give credit to him. This doesn't come up in the interview because this was recorded before the game. Anthony stuck out the entire game. He did not leave during the rain delay. We talk about it in the interview. He's an actual Mets fan. I don't know how much more proof I can give you than staying for a 12-hour or whatever, however many hours that game actually was. I know I'm exaggerating a little, but I know John and I were there for 12 hours. But enjoy this interview with Anthony Ramos. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Vito F. Calisi. John is at JMB9191. We're available on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, as well as the Mets YouTube. But we'll see you all here on Monday or Tuesday. We might have a special Monday episode since there's no Sunday series recap because the series ends on Sunday, but we'll definitely see you Tuesday. But here it is. Enjoy our interview with Anthony Ramos. Hey, it's Vito Calisi, Jonathan Barron. We're meeting at the Apple with Anthony Ramos, who you can see in Twisters on July 19th. Anthony, you're not just a movie star, you're also a Mets fan.
I'm a Mets fan.
Lifelong Mets fan.
Lifelong. I met Mike Piazza the other day.
Really?
Watching the game. Yeah, I was here. What was it, like an hour-long rain delay or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was there. The most random thing happened during that rain delay. My friend was sitting in the audience who Francisco Lindor invited, And I've met Francisco a few times because my ex-girlfriend from high school was like close friends with, I don't know if they were close, but they were friends in high school back in Puerto Rico. So they knew each other. So we all met, and every time I come to the games, I'm like sitting close enough to the field, we like, yo, what up, Francisco? But then finally we like all hanging out downstairs in the hallway. And my boy Rene from Calle 13, I don't know, he's the basic, it's him and his brother. They make this band called Calle 13. But Rene's like, yo, I'm going to chill with Lindor down in the clubhouse. You want to come? I was like, yeah, bro, let's go. So we down there chilling, and so we was there for a minute, kicking it over there, and during that rain delay. And then I'm all of a sudden I'm like ended up in the like common area of the clubhouse. Like
that's amazing.
Some of the players.
Which is crazy for you because like I want Mets fans to know like this isn't a celebrity coming to a game and like putting on a Mets hat. This is somebody. I saw an interview with you and Chris Jackson, and I think maybe even in this room.
Yeah, probably
in this room years ago before there was ever a podcast, and you were just talking about how much you love the Mets in like early Hamilton days, right?
For sure. I mean, I was at the World Series when they played the Royals. I was at that game 5, when they were all watching the Royals celebrate on the field.
I was there too, Anthony. I was there too.
It was painful.
Yeah.
I think didn't Matt Harvey pitch that game?
He did. That was his incredible start when he came back out, and Citi Field erupted when he came out for the 9th. Yeah. Special moment.
Yeah. No, it's right. He ended that game. That's right. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, it sucked.
Yeah.
I was like in Jerry Seinfeld's in his suite, but I was so loud. And I think after that day, Jerry was like, I'm never inviting this guy to my suite ever again.
Wait, did you know you got a scholarship from Jerry Seinfeld?
I did.
Right?
I got a scholarship.
Oh, really?
From Jerry Seinfeld. Yeah.
I did not know that. That's awesome.
Yeah. He didn't know either. Yeah.
He didn't know either.
He had no idea.
When did he find out? Does he know yet?
I mean, probably, maybe. I don't know. He probably still doesn't know. After I told him like twice. I saw him at like after the show at Hamilton. I'm like, yo, hey man, like thank you so much for the scholarship. He's looking at me, his eyes all wide. He's like, oh no, Jerry, my name's Anthony Ramos, and like, you gave me a scholarship. Like you gave me money to go to school for 4 years. And he's like, that's great, man. Oh man, yeah, well, thanks so much. And then I see him again. I went to I was hanging out a little bit with Jessica and his kids and stuff. We all knew each other from the show and stuff. And like I'm at the crib, and I was basically like, yo, Jerry, just want to say thank you again. He's like, oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Vito doesn't remember half the stuff I tell him anyway, so I got it.
It's all right. It's okay. But shout out to Jerry Seinfeld. Thanks for the money.
So we want to talk a little Hamilton with you, but we heard there was another person you met earlier this week during the Subway Series, your favorite Met of all time. And we've met our idols too. Like we met David Wright in spring training. We interviewed him. That was amazing for us. But iconic. Tell us about the experience meeting your boy, Carlos Beltran.
Yo, so I'm like, me and my boy Rene, Francisco comes out the clubhouse, whatever, like, where they all eat and chill and stuff. He's like, yo, guys, pull up. So he calls Rene. He's like, yo, Ed, come through. I was like, word? Yeah. He's like, come through. So I walk over there. Beltran comes out. Bro, it was like a light around this dude. It was like, he's in the movies, like,
a little halo over his head.
Pulls up. I'm like, yo, that's Carlos Beltran. I was like, yo, that's my favorite player on the planet. And I like kept my cool. I was just chilling. And we all hanging out back there. Everybody's cracking jokes. It's like Iglesias and Alvarez, a bunch of cats down there. And we all chilling. And finally I was like, yo, Carlos, I just have to tell you, bro. Yo, you my favorite player of all time. Yo, I was like, I didn't want to say anything to you, man. Like, cause I don't know why I didn't want to say anything to you, because that's just stupid. But like, bro, you're like, you're a legend, bro. You're legendary. He's like, oh, yo, love you, bro. Gave me this big hug and whatever. And then it was crazy, yo. We like hanging out back there. We chilling for mad long. He's like, yo, bro, if you in PR, like hit me up. And I was texting him the other day. I was like, yo, I sent that first text. I was like, can't believe I'm texting Carlos Beltran.
That's amazing.
Yeah, crazy.
Do you remember his walk-up song?
I was about to bring it up. Did you hear dun 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 dun?
No,
Eres aquí.
I guess y'all are bigger Carlos Beltran fans than me. I guess I'm a poser.
When you hear it, you'll know. You'll know.
I guess I'm a poser.
If you know, you know.
Yeah, I almost brought up that run he had with Houston. And I was like, let me not do that. At City Field. I was like, yo, man, that run you had with Houston in the playoffs was crazy. And then I said, hey, don't do that.
That's funny.
Yeah.
But this is a big summer for you. Last summer you had Beast Wars. This summer you have Twisters. That's
Right.
I mean, like, that's 2 big summer blockbusters in a row.
Yeah.
Pretty exciting time in your career. Now, were you a Twister fan when you were a kid? I mean,
No. No?
no?
It was
The Universal ride, the whole experience, you don't remember any of that?
Yeah, no, I'd never been on the ride. Yeah, like I'd never seen the movie. I heard about it, and oddly enough, like anyone else I told that I was doing the film was like, yo, that's my favorite movie. That's like my favorite film of all time. And I'm like, damn, this is a lot of people's favorite movie. I was like, what is it about this? I mean, I'm pumped, and I know the film was a smash, but I was like, wow, like I'm excited to see it.
When I think of VHS tapes, I think of Twister.
That's crazy.
I don't know why. It's just because I remember my mom had that VHS. I used to watch it all the time.
I think of Sandlot and then the Ray Ordonez documentary.
The Ray Ordonez documentary.
Y'all remember that one?
No, I don't remember.
You
Yes.
never see that one, bro?
Yes, that is such a deep cut. That was the last thing.
Yes. Yo, bro, with it, yeah, man.
You just saved yourself with the Beltran moment.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, see Ray Ordonez documentary, deep cut.
Deep cut.
No.
I was not expecting the Ray Ordonez documentary
Bro,
to come
I
up
used to
during
watch-
this conversation.
I watch that joint all the time, bro, on VHS. But and Sandlot. But man. Twisters wasn't like I didn't see watch the movie growing up, and like even like one of my aunts, I'm like, yeah, D, I'm like Didi Emily, I'm like doing Twister. She's like, that's my favorite movie of all time. I'm like, word. It's like, hopefully you say that about ours.
I'm sure they will.
I saw it a couple days ago. It's good.
That's exciting, man. We're excited to see that.
July 19th.
July
Twister.
19th.
July 19th.
Now, we've seen you in a couple things the Mets have produced. We saw you, you were the focal point of the 2022 playoff video, which was amazing, the train going by.
Yeah, they won an Emmy for that too.
Yes, they did.
I heard that the new spot got nominated for
If
something.
you know, you know. The City
Yeah, if you
Connect,
know,
the
you
City
know.
Connect campaign.
That we did is up against Spike's.
Yeah.
Spike's Yankees commercial, and Spike was we were all in the owner's box the other day. We in Steve Cohen's joint, and I'm talking to Jake and stuff. And he's like, yeah, man, look, we up against your boy Spike. And he's like, I forget about that. He's like, he's not gonna win. We're gonna win.
Hey, we just smacked him around in the Subway Series. We'll smack him around again.
Let's go.
So you growing up a lifelong Mets fan, getting to be a part, like getting to sit in the owner's suite, getting to come throw out a first pitch, getting to meet players and do it. What's that like for somebody who grew up loving this team?
Yo, it's wild. I was talking to somebody. By the way, I love you, Spike. I was just playing. Don't be mad at me. I'm going to this block party today. But
Where's it at?
it's in Brooklyn, in Best Side. It's cool, man. It's cool getting to be here and do this kind of do these kinds of things, man. Like I grew up loving this team. Like Al Leiter and all, just all these guys like Robert Ventura, watching all these
Fonzie.
guys. Yeah, like just watching all these guys play. Benny Agbayani.
Oh, heck yeah.
And I met Mike Piazza the other day, which was crazy. And I almost didn't want to ask him for a picture either, but I'm just like, yo, that's Mike Piazza, And I did. I had to get a photo, but it's just like these guys. I grew up playing baseball, and the Mets were my team. My first team that I ever played for were called the Greenpoint Mets.
I love that.
So it was being able to now come to the park and do stuff like this is honestly, it really is a dream, man. Like I feel like a kid every time I come here, and now like knowing Alex and knowing these guys, people own the team is kind of crazy, and like it's just bugged out, bro. It's a blessing, man. I just feel blessed. I'm like grateful.
Real quick, want to ask you. We're both huge In the Heights fans. Favorite In the Heights song? What's yours?
Champagne.
Okay.
Yeah, Champagne.
All right. We're both big Benny's Dispatch guys.
Yeah, I know. The other guy. That's fine.
It's a team.
It's a team effort. I mean, the opening song is great also. Lights Up on Washington Heights.
And you
That's
also,
a great-
I think you did it. I think you did that song better than Lynn.
Wow. Thanks, bro.
Don't tell him he said that.
Hey,
not a competition.
oh wait, one last question. We'll get out of here. Is it hard being close with Lynn because he tries to shove Yankee stuff and everything, and you're like, I want to wear my Mets hat?
No.
Come on.
Nah, Mets all day, baby. Nah,
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Make him let you wear a Mets hat and something.
Yeah. Well, that's what I did in Transformers.
Love that.
Said,
You got a rep, baby. You got a rep.
Said it's all right. It's okay. It's all right. You won't let me do it in the Heights? I'll do it in one of the biggest franchises in the world. What are we talking about?
Manny Ramirez was mentioned in the Heights. That's anti-Yankee, so I like that.
Yeah. Right? He is.
Yeah.
He is.
There you go.
Well, Twisters is out July 19th, playing in theaters everywhere. Anthony, thanks so much for joining us. You can follow this podcast on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. We're also available on the Mets YouTube page. And Anthony, thanks again, man.
Thanks for having me.
Good luck on that first pitch.
Thanks. I got to
baby.
redeem myself. Thanks.